While a country's national interest usually refers to its goals and ambitions, whether economic, military, or cultural, many Nigerians can barely define theirs. Sina Fagbenro Byron, the Kowa party presidential candidate, believes the absence of a clearly defined national interest is the main reason for the country's issues and concerns. How does he intend to fix that? Find out here on Race for Aso Rock.
Basically, why are you running for presidency in 2019 elections?
Well, the first reason is that there's a vacancy in 2019. Constitutionally, there's a vacancy. The second reason is that I believe with all my heart that I'm qualified for the job. The third reason is that Nigeria has reached a situation in its history, in its political economy, that calls for real concern and requires everyone and anyone who has solutions and who has a heart for the welfare of this country to step in and to step out. Nigeria is not only a bastion of natural resources, it's also a bastion of human resources. So if it doesn't work, it's going to have implications not only on Nigerians, but the entire West African space. And if it has that kind of global impact, it's going to go beyond that. So I think that it's high time that we should, all of us should be on deck. And I put myself out to run for office.
This is pretty interesting because, I was reading a little bit about you and I realized that, this isn't your first foray in politics.
No.
You once upon a time ran for local government, elections in Lagos State.
Yes.
On the platform of a different party.
Absolutely.
So
PDP.
now, yes, PDP.
Yes.
And we'll get to that a little bit
Yes.
later. Now you are running for presidency under the umbrella of the Kowa party.
Yes.
At the moment, the Kowa party really doesn't have anybody on the national platform like National Assembly. In the States too, they're also lacking. So that means like the party is not as prominent as a lot of like some other parties who are, contesting. So what are your chances, your party chances of making a mark this election season, this election cycle?
Well, that is true that we are not present in most of the, the assemblies in the legislature, especially we're absent in the National Assembly.
Completely.
But this is true not because, every party has to emerge. In the space where we've been playing politics in Nigeria, we've had some dominant parties. And they have been surviving because they have played politics in a particular way. They have been dominant in terms of them, dominating the political space. They have been in governance. And if you look at how governance has been applied and the issues we have now in terms of corruption, in terms of misgovernance, and you superimpose that at those parties in terms of their character, their wealth, and their size, and they're probably big because they've been draining the nation. Yes.
I see.
They have sustained themselves by draining the nation. And Kowa Party was set up, I'm a founding member of Kowa Party, was set up in 2010 because we wanted to change not only government but governance. We wanted to change the way politics was being played. You're right, I contested in PDP, under PDP in 2001. At that time, there were three prominent parties. There was the AD, there was the PDP, and there was the ANPP. So at that time, those were the choices. And I was a PDP, aspirant and candidate later on. But we had to withdraw. The party asked us to withdraw from the local government elections in 2001 because, Tinubu created extra 34 local governments. And Obasanjo, who was the party leader in PDP and the head of state, felt in his wisdom that the best thing was for PDP to withdraw from that election. Now, I found that rather curious, but I didn't find it good practice. PDP was pretty much run on the basis of a lot of impunity, a lot of centralized decision making, where people were not involved. And it was actually out of that frustration
that you left,
that we left, and we formed a new party that would allow space for younger people, that would allow more opportunities for women, that would, wouldn't be a party predicated on one man being bigger than the sum of all of us. So we formed Kowa Party, and since 2010 we've been building Kowa Party, firstly to maintain those principles. Now, if we could easily have big deals and gotten into the legislature and all that, and yes, we would be present, but we wouldn't be true to the spirit of why we formed Kowa Party.
And that matters a lot too.
It absolutely matters, because the vehicle at which you get into government will determine how well you perform when you're in government. There's all sorts of, environment around politics and the way politics is played. Before you become a candidate from an aspirant, does the party subject you to all sorts of compromises? What is the weeding process?
So are you saying these are the things that are present in the dominant parties like the PDP?
That is precisely the point. That is the point. Number one, it's money dominates. It's not a question of ideas. I take, for example, look, a party like, with all due respect, you have great guys in the party. I wouldn't take that away from them. But the parties of the institutional framework of the party does not allow the best to surface, because there is interference in due process of decision making.
Godfatherism?
Absolutely. Interference as a way of either money bags or godfathers and things like that. And there is no really inclusive level playing field for citizens' participation. When that is deprived, when you are deprived of that at the party level, tell me, how do you expect to get it when they're in government? And so that was the issue. So, but right now, what we're saying is that we've built Kowa Party up to a significant critical mass to start resonating. We have 198 candidates running in different seats, for different seats all over the country right now, and we're probably about fifth party with the highest number of those running, maybe, or fourth, next to APC, PDP, and probably SDP. So this time around, it's going to be a different kettle of fish. As you know, the name Kowa is not an acronym. It actually means all of us in Hausa language. In Yoruba, it means explain to us. And in Igbo, it's Kowa, which means
explain. Well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So Yoruba, it's bring to us. So there's an inclusiveness. At the heart of the name Kowa is the spirit of inclusiveness and a spirit of togetherness where nobody is left behind.
That's amazing, because I was even about to ask you the meaning of Kowa Party, because I kept rattling my brain.
Yes.
What's the acronym? What does that stand for?
It's just Nigerian languages. But we chose a Nigerian language that had, that it was common, that it could
interpret it in the different major languages.
But meant, so it took a lot of research to get that name.
That's impressive.
It took a lot of research, and it took a lot of sitting down to find out what will resonate. We didn't want, acronyms that, meant either here or there.
You have raised a lot of interesting points here, because, just before we started taping, I had talked to you about, the fact that I've met quite a number of politicians with really great ideas before they become, political office holders. And afterwards, they're completely different persons.
Absolutely.
And, in the situation you're trying to explain to us, it's really not about them, but about the platforms to which or with which they got into those political seats. So now they're being influenced by these platforms, by these godfathers, by these policies of the parties that doesn't allow them to function in their own capacity.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about your experiences. Yes. Basically, you've worked with the DFID and a lot of international company organizations, and your strength is governance and development matters.
Yes.
How is that an advantage for you running as running for the presidency of this country?
Well, the issue is governance. Governance is at the heart of whether people get services delivered. Governance is at the heart of whether a state or a country fails or it provides the kind of environment for its people. Governance is about capability, it's about accountability, it's about responsiveness. And being a specialist in that field, I have actually been in a position working with David and previously as a consultant with the World Bank, the European Union before that, to actually have been in a position to provide support to the Nigerian government at the highest levels. For example, at some point in time, I was the co-chairman of the steering committee of what you know as Servicom. Servicom is the service compact with Nigerians, whereby the public service has to structure itself in a way that it has to provide the best of service delivery through its government operations. And we provided the technical support as well as the funding. I was the first, Nigerian consultant for the EFCC. As a matter of fact, I was responsible, along with another, for the first funding and the design of EFCC operations in Nigeria. And Nuhu Ribadu is very much alive today. You can ask him. So I have been in the thick of governance in this country for about 15 years at a very high level.
That's amazing. I took time to study your policy document. You said you don't have a manifesto.
No,
you have a policy document.
Yes.
And there were a few things that I saw and a few things that I didn't see. So I would like to get some specifics.
Okay.
Let's start with some of the things that I saw that caught my attention.
Yes.
You're one of the very few candidates who's put climate change as
Absolutely.
as a priority.
Yes.
Explain that to us. Why the environment, and what do you intend to achieve? When you look into that sector.
Okay, Nigeria is not only facing domestic issues and sort of other international issues that border on our trade and our economy and security, but we're also facing global issues that are a result of natural and some man-made occurrences. If you take a look at the northern part of Nigeria, now there's a huge desertification coming. There's an influx of the desert as a result of climate change. And that in itself is making the desert to move down south. In 5 years' time, it's going to be disastrous if we don't start addressing some of these issues. That's the north. It has security implications, it has living space implications, and a lot of it is not unconnected to some of the conflicts that we experience in the northern parts of Nigeria and the Middle Belt. That's the honest to God truth.
Yeah, the farmer heads.
In the southeast of Nigeria, you have massive gully erosion, which is not unconnected to aspects of land use as well as climate change and the way we manage the environment. Right, of course, the Niger Delta's issue on the environment is apparent, it's clear, and everybody knows that. So I believe that in a country, one of the things you need to manage, countries, and to secure your citizens, your nation must be resilient. And what do I mean by resilient? The nation should be able to respond to both natural disasters in a quick manner or man-made issues. Now, Nigeria is not primed, or we don't appear to understand or appreciate this issue of climate change, and it appears we don't have the knowledge. Meanwhile, it's all around us, it's happening, and it's such a devastating, even where it comes, the animals themselves are being displaced, and I think it's a critical issue that we must address. I mean, because next to your security, and you've got your health and education right, but it's the next thing is the environment, the living space in which you're land.
To a lot of people, and
Yes.
I would agree with that, the number one topic is
Yes.
security.
Absolutely, and it is the number one priority on my own.
Exactly, I saw that
list,
too as well.
Yes.
We heard what happened to the soldiers and the controversy about the quality of weapons that they have, and then
Yes.
I've spoken to a lot of other presidential aspirants who have different ideas on how the security apparatus should be revamped and how to handle security in this country.
Yes.
I want to hear yours specifically. How do you intend to tackle the very serious security issues we have in this country, from the Boko Haram in the northeast to even militancy down south, and all of the things going on with security in Nigeria? What is your plan?
Okay, Nigeria should know when it's at war and when it's not at war. I mean, we shouldn't be in denial. Nigeria is at war. And even if we haven't declared war on some people have declared war on us. When you have a military officer in the Nigerian army being captured by a strange army within the Nigerian space, then Nigeria is at war. So in the first place, the mindset and the ability to face the situation for what it is war. So that we can put that aside. There are two issues to security. There is a domestic security and there's external security. The domestic security, internal security, external affairs, homeland security is essentially a police matter. And then you've got the military. Right. One thing that I think is a major gap is the fact that our security architecture doesn't seem to appreciate that intelligence gathering, right, and information is the primary tool and not necessarily guns and mortar to fight security. Now, you have to have the kind of relationship that has to be between the communities and the security agencies. I think we got that absolutely wrong in the first place. So a lot has to do, obviously, with the deployment of our troops, with the deployment of policemen, and with information gathering. I also believe that our forces are not coordinated. There isn't any apparent united command, either for law enforcement or for external security. I think there's a failure of intelligence, but clearly there is espionage. Clearly there is sabotage. Clearly there is an issue with the kind of people that we have put in charge of certain responsibilities within the army.
Example?
Well, it's a question of their capacity or their willingness.
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
One of the trending things right now is the video of a soldier saying that they were given obsolete weapons to fight, serious, weaponry of these militants. So if you are talking about that too, do you want to weigh in on that? I mean,
absolutely, they're right, and they've been saying it for quite a while. You would recall that a couple of years ago, some soldiers mutinied.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were sent on a
mission with very obsolete equipment.
It's sad to say, but I believe that some of the military, you have a few that are profiteering from, the current insecurity. Because when in an insecurity situation, you don't run bank accounts. Everything is cash. I mean, are you going to pay soldiers through bank accounts in Sambisa Forest? So it's usually a cash transaction. So it's a heavy opportunity for corruption. Now, simply another thing is that our security expenditure, I think they should go through a bit more, accountability processes. I'm not saying they should be up in the air for everyone, but I believe that there should be some accountability processes. I think more importantly, however, is that the governors should have more responsibility for security. And it should be constitutionally recognized. I'm not saying that the governors should be empowered without given responsibility or shouldn't be made accountable for the powers they are given. But in Nigeria, security forces appear not to take accountability seriously. You give a policeman bullets, you give him a gun, and he expires those guns and he shoots those guns, and he doesn't get back to the office to record and write down exactly what did you expend these bullets on. So I have a policy which says that, look, for every bullet given a policeman, he must account for each of those bullets. Another thing that we have a problem with that has marred our security policy is because we don't have any defined national interests as a country. The national interest of Nigeria has long been tied to the personal interest of the head of state. So, and that is not national interest. And so what I do in my own offer is to provide a defined national interest, which is the protection and preservation of Nigerian lands, Nigerian lives, Nigerian livelihoods, as well as the interests of Nigerians abroad and our friends within. Now, that doesn't know ethnicity, that does not know tribe, that does not know gender.
So obviously, when you become president, if you become president...
I will, by the special grace of God.
If you become president, you intend to put in these policies that will lead to what you are talking about, creating a national interest that is more about the people. We will define, and that.
We get into office, we have a security meeting, every security man will be on the same page that the national interest is what's going to drive security, drive foreign policy, drive domestic policy, drive development policy. And it is the protection and preservation of Nigerian lands, Nigerian lives, and Nigerian livelihoods. That is what all the resources of this country will be thrown at to defend.
And you believe this will end Boko Haram? this ruling and different kinds of insurgencies and militancies we have in this
country. It will create a culture that will never allow for the things like Boko Haram to happen. There is a reason why Boko Haram came in, because there's an element of injustice. There's an element of not caring for the poor. There was an element of carrying religion beyond, extremities. So it's a combination, a whole raft of things.
Okay, so we're down to our 1 minute. Okay. In 1 minute, talk to the Nigerian voter and convince him or her to vote for you.
Fellow Nigerians, Nigeria is the best kept secret. It's a beautiful country. With the people who know what Nigeria has and how to get Nigerians to work, Nigeria will go on to heights. My name is Sina Fagbenro Byron, and I have prioritized security, health and education, the environment, leveraging on ICT, and the economy. All these issues are issues that we need to address and solve. And guess how we can solve them? We can solve them by all of us getting together to work at them. We're going to create jobs. We're going to create issues and incentives around these areas to get people to actually get to work and get Nigeria working again. With Kowa Party, we are all winners, and I will ask Nigerians to settle for best. Vote SFB, Sina Fagbenro Byron, because you'll get the best and we'll all be winners.
Sina Fagbenro Byron says he will redefine national interest to mean protection and preservation of Nigerian lands, lives and livelihoods, and this will transcend all ethnicities. Do you believe him? Share your thoughts on the comment section of this video or via our social media platforms. Also subscribe to our YouTube page and visit our website. You've been watching Race for Aso Rock.